So, Bill, you ready to go? Let's unpack this and refresh my memory too. I think that you taught on this not too long ago, didn't you? You unpacked it in a different way. For some reason, I thought that you have done this. Maybe it was my conversations with you just along the way.
As we were walking,
kind of generic. It's kind of like how these conversations go, right? So we're going to invite you folks into our conversation and enjoy this time with us. And so, Bill, let's go
and let them know that I have no idea where you're going,
right? Because you never do, and that's the beauty of what we do.
Right, I don't,
and then I never know what you're going to ask me. So it's okay. So 4 truths you unpacked out of Luke chapter 24, beautiful walk to Emmaus, and what takes place along that way. And you said something I thought that was good and profound in that it wasn't so much about the events, but their meaning. Okay. And so then you said the meaning, let's unpack the meaning in the walk. That was the first truth.
Yeah.
The second one was there was a study.
Yep.
Okay, that's Jesus talking to them, unpacking the scriptures, right?
Yep.
All of what was said about himself, okay?
Yep.
Then they go into a home.
Yep.
That's the third truth. And then there was a gathering, so it's taking place. So on the walk, you brought up something that I thought was good because sometimes it seems that we can compartmentalize our walk with Jesus that he's here in this spot, but not so much over here when I'm going through this over here or, whatever.
Sure.
So why did you do that? Why did you unpack that? And where were you going with that? Because
okay, great. So there's 3 parts to the walk that if I even had more time,
yeah.
But there's the walk, which is a reflection of our journey, our pilgrimage. I don't think people understand that we're all on a pilgrimage with Jesus to the new kingdom. So, and I think the walk, the journey, the pilgrimage implies progress. It implies growth. It implies mistakes. It implies turns. So that's one component of it.
Okay.
Another component was that he is with us.
Yeah.
He is present with us. And the third truth is that I think we need to practice our awareness that he is present with us.
3 big things.
3 big things.
Yeah. Okay. So you did camp on the emotions in that journey, in that pilgrimage.
Yes.
Why did you go there with emotions? You could have stayed away from that.
Yeah,
I think you camped there.
A great question. 3 parts to that one I could have unpacked that I didn't. One is I think as Christians we deny our emotions more than we think we do, or we don't think we should feel them. So we don't want to feel anger because that's not good. We don't want to be sad. That means we don't have hope. We don't want to be jealous. We don't want to be frustrated. So I think what I'm doing a lot in counseling is using emotions to guide people to a deeper part of their heart than they're used to going. So the way to get out of here and start going here is to allow our emotions to guide us here.
Okay.
So in counseling, when I'm with people and somebody will bring their spouse isn't there, but there's an issue with their spouse, I'll say to them, hey, they're not here. It's just you and I. So I can't change them. They're not here. I can't even change you. Only you can change you. So let's turn this thing and say this. What is it that they're doing to you that's poking you, that's revealing something in you that you would not have to address if it wasn't for them? So let's turn them into a gift. Okay. Let's turn them into the teacher that's saying they don't even know it. You're experiencing some emotion, and rather than only looking at their story and their fault, why don't you take as an opportunity to go into the interior view to say, what's going on in my heart or my soul, my being, that would make me respond with that emotion? So, 2 weeks ago, somebody said something that wasn't true of me. So my first response is when I stopped And rather than want to address the issue and it's their fault and why would they do this and it was so unfair, I said, okay, what's going on inside of me that would make me feel that anger?
Right.
And after some reflection, I discovered pride. Pride, not looking perfect, not being perfect, not being tarnished my image.
So you gave yourself a pause. You said, "Hey, rather than knee jerk on this,
right?
I'm going to reflect.
Right?
Why am I feeling what I'm feeling?
Yep.
Because that's usually a tell of what's going on deep inside.
Deep tell.
Right? Okay. Now, so since we're on emotions here, you along the way have always taught me, and you speak to other folks about following the tears.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I took note of that in the Saturday message, okay, which was different than Sunday.
Always is.
And you right?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to see if it comes up again. I think you didn't even know it was going to happen to you, but on Saturday night, there was something about the horse and his boy. I think even before you began to read out of C.S. Lewis's book,
great observation.
I go, oh.
So did I.
The heartstrings are already being pulled. I'm going, what's happening? And
I felt the same thing, Bobby.
And you let it out, but you didn't go full force. But I go, okay, what's going on in Bill? Can we follow those tears?
Yeah.
Because it was about the closeness, the breath.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so why did that stir your heart?
Well, a couple things. Great question. One is I do think we miss a Savior who walks beside us that's closer than our breath.
Okay.
I miss that. I don't spend enough time each day aware of how close he is to us.
Right.
That's part of it. So it's my story. I think the other part is when I look out at our people, I go, how many people have yet to discover the Aslan who walks beside them and only wants to hear their story? Because as C.S. Lewis, what's striking, I'll tell you part of the tears, C.S. Lewis is brilliant, and I wish I was brilliant. Okay, I mean, the story, every line of the story, and he captures.
Right.
When I said to people, I spent 2 days looking for a better illustration because I've given it before, I couldn't find one.
Right.
And he picks up on the fact that Aslan walks beside him before he does this passage.
Was there, okay, so when I'm on the stage, and I, like you, sometimes I'm going, whoa.
Right.
Surprise, this emotion is welling up. Was there a mental image that you had? Was there a season in your life? It was tied to something. I know it was more than just the audience.
No, it was me and them. So the me part of the emotion is how often I feel sorry for myself the way Shasta did. I'm the most unfortunate boy that's ever lived. Okay, so I identify with Shasta. Okay. So I tapped into that part. We could explore that, but let's hold that for a moment.
Yeah.
And then Aslan comes along. The beauty, so I'm struck by my own emotion. Then I look out at the congregation and go, how many people don't know that Aslan or Jesus is walking beside them quietly? And I think most people, like me, live without that awareness.
Okay.
That's why Brother Lawrence teaches us to practice the awareness, because I don't think it's natural to think about Jesus every moment of our day. So there's an intentionality that we're missing. And so there's a grieving in me that we are not experiencing what God wants us to emotionally experience in his presence. So that was a part of it. And then the third part of it was just this beauty of the parallel between this passage and so he's there for much longer than where the story begins. And then he feels the breath. Jesus is closer than our breath. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. He's closer than our hand. So there was this just beauty of what he was doing. And then where I really felt it, that I couldn't shake, and it came back to me, is when he says, I was the lion who pushed the boat while you laid asleep. Period. I was the lion who scared the jackals in the middle of the night.
So that was a tender moment for you because you realized that in your own life, whether it was a specific thing, but you knew and were aware that, no, I'm not the most unlucky guy, like Shasta was saying, in the world. He was with me. And
not just with me. He was he was pushing the boat. He was scaring away the jackals. He was giving the horses new strength. He made sure the fisherman was on in the middle of the night. God is much more interested and engaged in my life than I think he is.
Right.
And so it was the beauty of discovering that. But Sunday I didn't.
No,
I didn't go there.
No, but I felt like, and it came up again. We'll get there here in a second, but it was good. I mean, I felt it and how you said it, and so I knew that there was something there, and that was really good. I appreciate that. So that's that walk. They're downcast. They're having a really tough day. Jesus enters into their
and the second people for Jesus to see. Mary's the first. They're the second. They've given up. They're hopeless. They're going into the sunset. They've turned their back on the cross and on the tomb, and they're headed home, and the game's over. They lost. Right. It's two guys having lost the game in the fourth quarter.
We had hoped.
And so they're headed away, and of all the people for Jesus to encounter. To me, it's this deep realization of how imminent Jesus is in our lives that we just don't get. And he keeps, I mean, in these studies with the storm, with Zacchaeus and the tree here, Scripture, and I've missed it. I haven't experienced it. I think I had it here. I didn't have it here. He knows the hairs on our head. He never will forsake us. And even in our doubt, leaving Jerusalem, he doesn't go to the temple. He doesn't pull 5,000 people together. He meets two doubters in their sadness. Right. So the truth is, Jesus encounters us in our emotions. That's why Luke says it.
Well, when you think about it, I'm a fan of the Psalms, and that is replete with Psalm after psalm after psalm of emotion, even questioning God and wondering, what in the world are you doing and why is this happening?
If somebody said, why is the Psalms there for me? I would say it's nothing to do with the song. It has everything to do with giving us permission to be honest. Because David is honest.
And is that not, well, because they're directing it to God.
Yes.
Not there.
Yeah.
And I think God meets us in that dialogue, and that if you're going to.
Well, here, it's where Jesus met them. In their it's exactly what you said.
Yeah. And when I read the Psalms, I put myself in the story. I am the psalmist. Because we can all identify with that psalm.
For sure.
Either right now, or we've experienced it in the past, and we become the psalmist. And so I go into that. And by the time that psalm is done, there's a turning of the corner of the heart. Something changes, something clicks, something is redirected, or a perspective given, or just comfort.
Yes, it's a catharsis. It's a existential experience.
Yes.
And it's a breathing out the pain. I mean, there's just a lot of beauties to it.
Yeah.
Which is why I think Luke wants us to know these guys were sad and Jesus knew they were sad. And I think, as you say, when I'm in counseling with people at the church and I see tears, I don't care where we're going. It's forget it.
Yeah.
This is where we're going to go.
Right.
And if I forget to bring this up, even though I think we're on the edge of something, we're going here.
We're diving in.
This is the moment.
Right. Yeah.
Because like I said, and Jerry Petalon was the one that said it to me, that our emotions are the feelings of our beliefs.
So let's unpack that, because that was a question for me. You didn't unpack it so much in the teaching, probably because of time, but let's go there. I mean,
Go ahead.
Obviously that's a deep statement.
Go ahead.
And Jerry's onto something.
Yes.
What is he onto?
He's onto the fact that it becomes a great opportunity to find out what our beliefs are. We run from our emotions. We deny our emotions. We lie about our emotions. We cover our emotions, and yet they're a gift to tell us not only where we're at in our hearts, but they're a gift to tell us what we believe. These guys believe Jesus was dead, and that's what their emotions told them. It was the feelings of their beliefs.
Right.
And what happens? When they encounter Jesus and they believe that he is risen, they have hope.
Boom.
Their emotions go another way.
We're going to go tell everyone. Well, and then he unpacks the scriptures to us, which is the second truth, a study.
Yeah.
Okay. So you made a statement that the problem isn't that we don't know the scriptures. Let's assume that most people do.
It's not that we don't believe the scriptures.
We know the scriptures, but it's how we interpret them. Yeah, that's where we get messed up. And that's what came out to me in that. Well, that's what you said. It's not that we don't believe the scriptures. It's that we have a problem with how we interpret them.
Which creates a problem in our life. So if I don't think I should suffer, and you and I spend a lot of time with people who can't figure out why they're suffering or give up on Jesus because of the suffering, I say to them, okay, fair enough. What do you believe? Well, I believe that I shouldn't be suffering. That's not a part of God's economy. That's not what God has for his children. That's not what he has for me. That's not what I'm supposed to experience. And I go, okay, give me verses that tell you that. And they struggle and can't find any. And I said, well, now let me give you 10 that says you will experience suffering. And it is a gift that nobody wants. And it's God's megaphone. And it reveals and conforms and transforms us in a way. So they go, I just want the scriptures. And I go, you don't just get the scriptures. You also get this gift. So if your belief is, I shouldn't suffer, and you're suffering, then it causes you not to believe. But if you say, I know I'm going to suffer at some point, it's been promised to me that I'm going to suffer. It has happened to everybody who has followed Jesus closely, some leading to their death.
Yes.
Therefore, when they come, I'm not surprised by them.
Right. And Paul would say, I rejoice in them.
And so would James.
And Peter and James both. Right? So here are all these, they're saying, no, hey folks, this is probably one of the greatest gifts that we have in transforming our inner person. The sufferings bring about a fruit.
Yes.
That couldn't otherwise be accomplished. If everything's going well and fine, I'm good. But when suffering happens, like you said,
makes you pay attention.
Oh boy,
It awakens you. So I think when Luke says later, Jesus said it, "O foolish ones, slow of heart," there's that heart thing, "to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Was it not necessary that Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" He, of all the places he goes to in the Old Testament, is to go to the prophets and Moses to describe suffering.
Right.
So you got suffering in the Old. The Messiah is to suffer. We are to suffer, but nobody wants suffering.
Part of the package.
Part of the package.
So you on Sunday unpacked it a little more in depth,
right?
On putting the scriptures into action.
Yeah, and
you spoke to some difficult areas that I think all of us struggle with, and that first the suffering, and then debunk our life is to be happy. But you said, well, here's some other things. Forgiveness. That's a tough one, right? And you gave some examples, and then love your spouse. Let's go there.
Well, what I said is love your neighbor, the guy that has the sign that you don't like in your and then who is your neighbor?
Right?
Another line I learned from Jerry. The closest neighbor that Bill Muir has is Karen.
Yeah.
So the neighbor doesn't start at the fence. The neighbor starts inside my home.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden I go, okay, that's the command. I am to love Karen.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
She is, well, there's a lot of things I want to do, but love on certain occasions is not what I want to do.
You said, well, let's take it even a step further. Beyond that, and I thought, okay, what is that? It was the die to self.
Now we're really going hard.
Right? Because, how I do with that is going to determine how I love my wife, Kelly.
Well, two parts to that. One is, I don't believe anybody's fully going to understand what the Christian life is all about until they die to self. I almost think it is the first step of repentance, of dying to self. And nothing in Scripture makes sense to me if I don't die to self, because every part of me wants to strive and survive and be happy and be comfortable, and until I say, it's no longer me, it's Christ's story, Christ living his life out through me, then that begins to change everything. It's the, why would I forgive somebody if I haven't died to myself? You could bring everything back to that Galatians 2:20.
Yeah. And Philippians 2. What Jesus did in becoming like a servant. Yeah. Okay. So let's leave some room, which we typically don't do, Bill. We don't leave room for the second half of the sermon.
I got it.
We usually get to the first, right?
Okay.
We can unpack and unpack. Okay, so let's go to the home. So that was the third truth. And that Jesus wants to be in our homes. And you quoted Deuteronomy 6, we're talking about him along the way, along the road when you go to bed at night, and I felt a little bit of emotion from you Saturday night, not so much on Sunday, but on Saturday night, I felt it. And you also said something very powerful, that one of your biggest mistakes, regrets, is
inviting Jesus in.
So you talked about,
if you would have asked me that, I've said, of course he's here.
Yeah.
My mistake was I didn't practice his presence, and I didn't act on his presence, and I didn't participate in his presence. So it was stepping into the abstract. Everybody in this room, if I said, is Jesus in your home? They'd say, yes. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. He's all of those things. And I said, okay, is he at your dining room table while you're sitting with your spouse or with your kids? And then how much of your story is leaking him out in those conversations? Not that you manufacture it, not that it's cliche, not that it's a quick Bible study, but this concept, there was really two parts to this that became very alive to me. One, my home, the kitchen and the dining room. Even here's a beautiful truth. This morning, Karen and I have coffee in the morning, and my wife even listened to me this weekend, and she said, as we're talking, I'm fully aware, Jesus, that you're sitting here with Bill and I. which I thought was a great,
Yeah.
to sometimes verbalize it.
Yeah.
To
Say it out
say
loud.
in front
Wow.
of our kids, Jesus, we acknowledge your presence with us. May this conversation minister to all of us, and may you celebrate what is said here.
So if you have, we hope that there are some young families out there listening. And so let's say, the parents of young kids.
Yeah.
What does it look like beyond the dinner table? I mean, for that, what are some practical things? Because what we want is for him to be just a part of the culture of our home, right? Because you said culture around us is so loud. There has to be something that counterbalances that and wins that prevalent culture that wants to take us.
Yeah. And I'm fully convinced, now this is me, maybe it's me because I'm 72, I don't think we're as aware as we ought to be of how much our culture is shaping our kids, no matter how hard we fight. So let me step on some toes. I know parents that will get their kid the best baseball glove imaginable and the best aluminum bat imaginable and the best coach and the best uniform and do everything to help their kids succeed from third grade to their senior year in high school and invest nothing in a life coach and would never even think to get their kid a life coach or a discipler or a mentor. There's this, and then we're surprised that our kids go up to University of Oregon in 3 weeks, give up their faith.
Well, let's step back from that, Bill. I mean, so it's been said, Barna did a big research thing, make it up, 20 years ago. And he said that better than the life coach is the parent.
Oh, of course.
Right? I mean,
yes.
we're the best. And he says, our voice is the loudest and most important in our kids.
Yes, we ought, no question. What I was making, my metaphor was we're worried about what coach our kid has on a baseball team, and we would never think what coach does he have on their life. But that said, we ought to be their coach. I mean, a dad and a mom, which I wasn't. That's my mistake. I did not look at my children. This is the guilt, the shame, the tragedy, the broken part of my heart. I often wondered, as much as I did try, if I would have daily practiced his presence and asked Jesus that my conversations, my walk with my son around the block, as Deuteronomy says.
Yeah, right.
Turn off the TV and play cards or do something more engaging than passively, or figuring out a way to, my kids really weren't into video, but to get them off of video or off their phone and engaged in real life. I think as parents, we have to be intentional as life coaches daily. And and I said it this weekend, my biggest tragedy is for a parent to think that if they take their kids to kid church for an hour or an hour and a half, that they've done everything they need to do as a Christian parent. And I go, no, Deuteronomy says, when you wake up, when you eat, when you walk, when you play, when you go to bed, your conversation is... Now, what does that require? Here's the other part. It requires for me to have an authentic relationship so that when I encounter them, it's not cliches, because we've all...
Because they can smell it.
Oh, they can. Oh, of course they can.
They're going to go baloney.
We probably do more harm than if we So my first responsibility is to walk with him, my unseen guest, who's closer than my breath, and allow him to into my heart as in fellowship. These two guys are with each other. Let's give them that credit. They're not alone. That in my encounter with Jesus on a daily basis, in a very authentic and life-changing way, that the dad I bring to my kids is a dad who's authentic and real and has something to share.
Okay, so let's go. I'm going to back up then. We're going to skip the gathering at the end. That's the fourth point. I want to go back because what you're saying, I think, is key. And it goes
let me stop here. Before I forget. I think the mistake, and I thought about it, I did it better in one teaching than the other. I think the mistake we make as spouses, men with their wives, wives with their men, with their husbands, is that we don't do the same thing with them. And so this sense of estrangement or distance or coldness, that we have not, before the crisis, created the same sort of relationship with our spouse where we want nothing more than for them to know Jesus.
Yeah.
That, like, not get a good car, not to get another toy, not to get an RV, not to go on a vacation, whatever. What we want most, what we long for most is this deep desire that they know Jesus too. I mean, I know you do that really well. The two of you guys do it. I think that's why you guys are so connected, because you have invested your energy to do that. And I think it's easy to assume, I think I'm not as good at you as you are, you and Kelly, but I assume Karen's going to read her Bible. I assume Karen's going to pray. I assume that she'll take care of herself because my job is to take care of me, when in fact, I think this whole home thing is for everybody to take care of everybody. So it's not just kids, it is spouses too. But go where you're going to go.
Because how does a person, let's go back to that voice, that breath, the witness. Because if we're encountering that, and that just bleeds out into our spouses and our kids, right? So for a person, because this is really the key, I think, right? The witness of Jesus in my moment. How does a person develop the awareness of the breath, the closeness, the hand outstretched of Jesus in our daily walk? How do we cultivate that?
There's 100 ways. Let me give you the two. The relentless elimination of hurry. Okay, so if I slow down,
I've been quoting that every day for weeks now.
Matthew 11. If I am with Him in the journey of grace, I'm yoked to Him. I'm connected to His teaching. If I practice that, that's a part of the occasion. The practicing the presence of Christ is the other part of the story. So I slow myself down enough to be aware of Him. I practice stillness in ways that I am now practicing that I never did. So in stillness, if I'm still, then I have to ask the question, where is He in my story? I mean, the quietness makes me ask a question. What am I doing here? And who's with me here?
Right.
So the relentless elimination of hurry is part of the solution. The other one is the relentless elimination of noise is part of so the headset. I mean, I was at a coffee shop yesterday and everybody walking down the street had headsets on. There's no silence. There's no self-reflection. And then I think it's the practicing of it's learning to go from, okay, I know He's with me here on Sunday. Okay, I got that one down. Okay, now I'm gonna say, can I practice His presence when I wake up? Jesus, I acknowledge You in my life today.
Yeah.
I want to sense You. Okay, that's okay. At least then how about noon? Jesus, I thank You for this morning. I pray that my conversations this afternoon. Then it's dinner. It's in my car before I go into the house. Jesus, may my conversations around our table or in the kitchen or the living room, may I be aware of You. Some people, I haven't gone this far, but literally set their phone to ring every 3 hours as just an awareness, a ding,
a
reminder that He is present. I mean, it's that, and after you do that enough, then all of a sudden you go from once a week to 3 times a week to at least once a day to throughout a day and that rhythm begins to create a pattern where my soul
becomes the culture of your heart,
culture of my
and
heart.
The rhythm of your walk with Jesus.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, so folks, half hour for Bill and I, that's just like, barely getting started. Our lunch last week was
3 hours.
I was late to an appointment. I thought we got plenty of time. It was 3 hours later.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
like, oh my word. Okay. Well, good stuff always. It's fun. And we hope that folks just get a thought or maybe a nugget to chew on. And so folks, thanks for joining us, and Lord willing, we'll see you next week. And so God bless you. Have a great day with Jesus, experiencing his witness with you.